it's I decided this was not good. I would change
I think you can do
Oh, did you? Yeah. They only pay the first of the month. So it's something that they don't pay it until December. Because like if you go to the doctor, when it opens on, which is that's actually good. That's actually what I have to. My brother has select health. Select health when we had to do doesn't get it ever. It's pretty.
Let's do it next week.
Pretty good. We'll talk about it over here on Friday. All right. Hold on. Yeah.
That's one way.
Pay attention.
All right, now let's try it now.
Try.
That better?
Yeah, much better.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Welcome to the new faces in the crowd. Most importantly, just thanks for coming. We're going to start with Roxy, so we're going to get right into it. Come on up. Turn on the graphics and introduce yourself.
All right, I'm Roxy Christensen. I'm here to give an update on Sugar House Park. So it's a new year. We've got some changes that have happened. We have some new officers. So you probably heard before that we are a board of 7 volunteer citizen board members, and then we have a representative from Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. And from those 7 citizen board members, we have officers. So we recently had Holly. She's been serving in the president chair office for 6 years. She's actually going to be our past president. Our new president is Siv Safari here. I'm now the vice president, and we have a new treasurer, Shahan. And so we're really excited for this year. Our term runs November to November, and it can extend, so you may see us for a year or more. But we're glad for all the service Holly gave. As George knows, it's a service of love for the park that we keep doing it, and so we thank her for all the stuff she's done over the last 6 years. We're excited for 2025. We have this year 2 pavilions being replaced in the park. Yes, we are so excited. So, Big Field Pavilion. Sorry, my image is wrong on this, but Big Field Pavilion, not this one, but the biggest one in the middle, is going to be replaced. It is our largest pavilion. It's going to be bigger than the one that's the newest one right now, Fabian, is going to be bigger than that because this really is that pavilion where everybody who runs a 5K, if you're doing a large event, that's it, right by the athletic field. So it's going to get replaced. This means that there will be some reduced parking, and it also means that pavilion will not be rentable for this summer. The great thing is that Harley's Creek Pavilion, this is the one by the new playground, it's going to get replaced. And we know this is a favorite for families. If you got kids, you want to be able to watch those kids. You can see it's going to be oriented so that you can look at that playground. And this one is not on the same site, and that is because of a few restrictions. We actually have a sewer line under the existing playground, which we know will not get permitted when we go to ask for the new pavilion. So it's going to move locations, but it's still going to be nearby. It's going to be oriented to the playground. And that means the other existing pavilion is going to be rentable all summer. So you can still rent that one. If you didn't know, all reservations in the park, that money goes into a pot to reinvest in the park, right? So when there's a sinkhole or we want, a sign's been broken, we can pay to replace that. So consider reserving the park for your family events, for other events, and that money goes right back into it. Quick timeline. Demo is probably going to be March, April construction. We're hoping June 1st that those pavilions will be open if everything goes smooth. As we know, it has to go smooth to meet that schedule. I want to just say thank you, Salt Lake City, Salt Lake County Council. Both of them have to agree to pay 50% into this. Thank you, Sarah Young, for representing District 7 in the park. The city, put that in there and approved it in about September, and then the county just did in December. So we're thankful for both of them for seeing the value of the park to replace these aging pavilions. Garden Center. I don't know if you guys have known, this Garden Center is owned by the Park Authority. Since it was built, it's been managed by the Utah Associated Gardens Club. Starting this year, the Park Authority is going to take back or transition back into managing it. The Garden Club's still going to stay there. It's still going to be headquartered in the building. It's just a change of management. We're actually going to keep the same people running the building. It's just going to be a change in who's managing day to day. But we're working through that, and also a master plan of that building. What does it look like in the future? What does it need? What kind of improvements? There's some known issues to it that we need to handle and take care of. So that's coming. 2026, we're going to keep on this pavilion replacement program that we're calling it to get all 7 of them replaced. So 2026, we're looking at Sugar Beet. This is that one with the kind of semi-amphitheater. That's going to be next. We're looking at the Hidden Grove pedestrian bridge. The railing's actually not at code, so we're looking to replace that and also add a sidewalk. If you've walked over that bridge, you probably noticed you have to walk through the basketball court to get there, so we're going to address that as well. These are things, of course, that we're proposing to Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County. We get budgeted in with every other park. So this is more just to alert you of what the Park Authority has been looking at and has been told is needed in the park. Playground shade structure. I know originally the newest playground was going to have shade, but it had to, because of budget, removed. But we do want to make that playground accessible in the high heat in the summer. Parking lots, they age, they need to be restriped. Not all of these things are super fun, but super practical. Weather track, we'd love to get all of our irrigation on the weather track controller, which means you can remote access it. And right now, some of that, the park is not on that new system yet. So hopefully happening. And then the culinary water lines in the park are actually at their end of life. So we need to do a study and design, and in the next 5 years, a major renovation to replace those lines. These feed the bathroom, the maintenance building, the fire hydrants. So those are what's coming in the future, and I'll take any questions.
What about the greenhouse?
the greenhouse by the maintenance building.
Yes.
The maintenance building does need help. As you know, they kind of prioritize the public amenities first, but I know some people have shown interest in using it. The current park manager does use that to grow the flowers that they plant. So he uses it, and temporarily Tree Utah has been operating out of there, but right now it's still not going to be open to the public just because of the condition.
There's 2 of those greenhouse buildings that are dilapidated. They're like falling down.
Yes.
They really need to be taken out and start over.
Right. Yeah.
They're not even, you can't fix them.
Yeah. They our park guys are great. People that work there, and it is on the list. So, yes, sir.
Are you looking ahead to the next round of ZAP?
We are. So ZAP funding, another big project, again, these are large items, is replacing the other playground. It is also nearing the end, so we would be looking and hoping for like an all accessibilities playground that would be near there. So that would be a big item. The culinary water line could be a big item. And that would be more in the repair versus new. And the county too has a really good pulse on what's needed in the park as far as that. But we are watching that and thinking of what we're gonna submit to ZAP. Thank you for voting for it and approving that tax. Yes.
Have you had any more thoughts on closing the park to traffic for one day a week?
One day a week.
Start, Jen.
It's been talked about. We have someone actively on the board looking at and comparing like open streets and programming and what that looks like. So it is a thought and it is to consider. And as I've mentioned before, it's really hard because, it snows, everyone wants to come sledding. The only way to get there is a car, right? So it's also a balance of getting there, and the events we host always bring a lot of cars, but I do think, and I enjoy when there's no one there either. So if anyone has an initiative, has, grant funding, something that can help support that, we are open to it. Someone's, working with Open Streets to kind of come up with a concept. And if there's nothing else, I'll let you guys go on.
Is it just like, well, that's okay. We have a lot of good representation and they are here tonight. So we have Senator Bluen. Let's see. Come on up, guys. Can you guys hear me at this?
Yeah.
Okay. They're on their way to the governor's ball, so they're going to give a quick. We're going to give a quick legislative update, I guess, before we see them again in March. 10 minutes.
Okay, we're gonna be real quick then. So I'm gonna make sure that you guys have time for like quick questions because there's probably exist. So hi, I'm Sarah Hayes. I represent.
Can you turn that up at all? Are you guys good with it? Especially in the back. Can you hear it? Okay.
Okay.
Just a little.
Mill Creek, Salt Lake, South Salt Lake. Hello, thanks for having us. This year I'm working on some education policy, so a student absenteeism pilot program, as well as like updating some code around elections, and then some victims' rights stuff. Other things to note, I'm serving on the Higher Education Appropriations Committee this year, which I don't know if you've heard anything about higher education in the news lately, so that'll be exciting. I can go into that a little bit more if you like, but that's kind of the quick and dirty of what my session is shaping up to be.
Hello everyone, I'm Nguyen, representing House District 23, which is the East Bend Salt Lake, part of Summit County, where we're sitting is part of House District 23. Freshman Democrat coming in, so my big job this year is to really watch, learn, build those relationships, committee assignments that I received for first time out, business and labor, rev and tax, and then natural resources appropriations. I also just learned that I was put on the water development committee, so that is really great as well. The bills that I'm running this year for a freshman is just a couple of things where Department of Health, I'm working with them to get more funding for their wait list in different departments of spinal cord, brain injury, just more funding there, a few $1 million over there. EMS providers, working with them to help make sure that they're all more accountable for providing care when they have patients under their care. I also opened a bill file regarding fugitive dust around the gravel pit, namely the Parley's gravel pits. They are looking to try to get more approval on opening a second location. So keeping a close eye on that to make sure we're going to see what we can do to not let them open, expand that gravel pit. I know that's a big one. And the other one right now is I'm working with the Department of Ed or the Utah State Board to see about the continuing technical education and how we can fortify that program to make sure that there's viable options, especially right now where some of the House leadership has indicated that they want to take away funding from higher ed, which is absolutely the wrong direction. But I'm saying if you're going to take funding away from higher ed, let's redirect it to public schools and make sure that these technical programs have more support so they're more robust for students. It's going to be a big year on energy, housing, immigration, those things. So we're going to have a fun upward battle this year.
All I can say, yes.
Hi, everyone. Nate Lewin, Senate District 13, so just outside of my district, but Central Sugar House area is in my district, as well as all of South Salt Lake and a bunch of Mill Creek and Murray, kind of in West Valley City. I've got way too many bills filed, that some of which will go forward, some of which will not. As was just mentioned, I think one of the things we're watching this year that's become kind of a tactic in recent years is this really fast start to the legislative session. So the session starts 2 weeks from yesterday, on Tuesday the 21st. Is that right? Yeah. In the last couple of years, the Republicans have run some of the most controversial, hot button, divisive culture war bills literally within the first week of session. I think immigration is really teed up, and unfortunately, I think everyone agrees there's a need to address public safety, keep communities safe, work on drug trafficking, that sort of stuff. But as it gets roped up and tied into, immigration and really focusing on one community that is being demonized and pushed into the limelight as being an outsized influence in that space, that's where I think we really get concerned is, trying to separate that out and actually look for solutions that get at the root causes of problems and not just these groups that are getting kind of thrown under the bus. So trying to push back on those issues. I expect that, we've seen these big press conferences in the last few days, couple of weeks on those issues. So I think that legislation will be coming early in session. It looked like there was a lot more representatives and senators. We'll probably start in the House and then move over to the Senate. Energy is a big issue I focus on. That's been a big deal. We'll see where that goes. I'm maybe not as worried as I could be about some of the stuff. There's certainly some concerns there, but I think a lot of the really problematic stuff went through maybe last year and the year before that. So I will be the only Democrat serving on Senate Natural Resources Committee this year. So if you all have concerns about air quality, mining, the gravel pit issues, I know we're watching that. There's a new bill introduced by Representative Clancy that has a study that could make it easier to permit mines like that. So I'm concerned about that. I've already heard from some folks. We'll see where that goes. It's not the end of the world yet, but we're definitely keeping an eye on it. So yeah, anything energy, environmental related, please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. I can nerd out on that stuff all day. I am wading into at least one hot button issue and have a gun violence prevention bill opened, looking at addressing hardware that can turn your average weapons into automatic weapons and some other pieces that go along with that. So look out for some more information coming on that soon. And then I have a bunch of other issues around Medicaid, what am I thinking about? I'm sorry, not Medicaid. Family leave is one of the issues that I'm looking at, trying to make it easier for companies to be able to offer paid family leave to employees. I've got too many filed, but
Great Salt Lake.
yeah, looking at some water planning issues that I've worked with folks from Salt Lake City Public Utilities on. The majority has said that we're done with Great Salt Lake bills, so that's unfortunate because we still have a lot of things to address there. A lot of things that do need to take action and get implemented that have been passed that I think are good, but they haven't. Really, we've gotten lucky. We've gotten lucky with all the precipitation we've gotten in the last couple of years. So we need to keep working on this to make sure we have durable solutions in place that aren't just relying on Mother Nature to provide what we need. We've got to have an ability to have some control over this and make sure that we can protect all of y'all's public health because, as somebody spends a lot of time on site, I'm certainly very personally concerned about the air quality issues that stem from Great Salt Lake. So, those are a few of the things. I'll be around. I am not going to the governor's ball, so I'll hang around for a little bit if anyone else has questions. But yeah, here we go.
Just a quick statement on Great Salt Lake. When I was campaigning, I was campaigning also on the Great Salt Lake, and I spent a good 8 hours speaking to so many different department directors, the commissioner over the Great Salt Lake. What else do we need to do to be able to help save the Great Salt Lake? The biggest takeaway was 2022 and 2023 were really good legislative sessions for the Great Salt Lake, where they really did do an all-hands, all-encompassing approach to looking at how do we save the Great Salt Lake. So you're probably not going to see a lot of legislation around the Great Salt Lake this session around because they did say, we're tapped out on things that we can do. My request to these departments was, then let's make it more transparent. Let's inform the public on what are the actions that have been taken, how much money, how much resource, what's the overall long-term strategy to save the Great Salt Lake. So we should hopefully be seeing more efforts towards informing the general public on what's happening with the Great Salt Lake.
Do we have time for questions?
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple. I don't want to be a
Just a quick comment, not a question. Please, when they cut the university budget, don't cut student health care. Over half a century ago, 52 years ago, I had an aberrational health condition, and one of the single smartest things I ever did when I was a student at the U is I paid infinitesimally small to join the student health plan for a quarter. And I have no idea what would have cost me if I had not been on the student health insurance. Please do not let them cut that.
None of us, I think I can speak collectively, are in favor of these cuts. Per meeting I had today, what it's probably going to look like is a 10% cut that is going to go towards the board that can then be reallocated, and then they'll backfill that for 1 year, and then the schools have to meet criteria to have that money reallocated to them. So these situations are kind of like, it's like we're playing Road Rover with Freight Train. However, where we can try to get some difference made is in those criteria for reallocation. So that's where I'm going to be focusing a lot of my work, is trying to make sure things like that happen, so that things like that aren't on the chopping block of these funds that are, I can't think of a polite term, held hostage. So thank you for that.
So there's been a lot of talk about Utah basically taking over all the land currently under the Bureau of Land Management. Is that a reality at all, or is that just them trying to bring the Bureau of Land Management back to the table? Isn't it 60% of the state is under the Bureau of Land Management? Is there any real shot we're going to take that back?
Good question. I literally just got off the phone with someone from SUA, the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance Association. I forget what it stands for anyway. Good group. They're super concerned about this lawsuit. They think, hopefully this isn't letting the cat out of the bag or anything, but they think, they're confident that the Supreme Court will not take the case that the state is trying to get them to take up. So, certainly can't say that with any certainty. I think that's coming in weeks or months, but hopefully that is the case. I think, Utah is, 60-70% public lands. Well, that's BLM. The state has put millions of dollars into advertising and litigating around this lawsuit. So I think it's a pretty blatant misuse of money in my mind. I spend a decent amount of time on public lands, and there's always things we could do to improve. But frankly, a lot of this is over ranching and the ability to let cattle run on some of those lands, and it's actually cheaper for the ranchers to do that under federal management than it would be under the current state rates. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense really for any reason to move in that direction to me. So certainly I'll be pushing back on that one pretty hard, and hopefully we can nip it in the bud before it actually goes forward any further. But it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays out with the Trump administration coming in. They were rare enough for a fight with the Harris administration. We won't get that. So I think some of this confrontation maybe will back off, but I think there's going to be another concerted effort to overturn the Bears Ears National Monument and some other things along those lines. That
I would expect that on the second day.
Yeah, I think it's going to come.
Not on the first?
Yeah. So try to keep people from exercising their worst judgment on those issues, I guess, and see what we can do. I'll give a shout out to Landon though for raising the fees issue, the student fees at schools. There's been an effort to I'm trying to think about this off the top of my head. It's a little bit complex, but we have the state moved in the direction of cutting fees from schools, which is a good thing, but there was no funding that came from the state level. So we need to, if we're going to move in that direction and try to make activities more accessible for kids, there needs to be funding. We can't just make the schools eat that out of their own budgets because we already know they're quite underfunded. So thank you, Landon, in your work as with Salt Lake City Education Foundation. Is that the right? Something like that. Anyway, good stuff. So we'll see what we can do with that.
Anything else? Okay, we start in 13 days. So email us, call us, text us if you see things that are concerning to you or things that you like we don't know. We don't know if we don't know, right? So we're going to do our very best to represent you guys in everything. And so if we know what it is that we're representing you on, I can make general assumptions based on the questions here, and I will probably often. But if we have emails to fall back on and say, no, this is what our people care about, and this is what matters to the people that we represent, it makes our jobs easier, and it adds validity to what we do, and it helps when there's difficult questions.
I would like to say the Great Salt Lake is still a huge concern of mine, and if we don't do something like yesterday, I have property here, it's not a thing that we can wait for another 3 years. So I'm very nervous because none of the things that you say matter if we are getting poisoned slowly every day and feeling like shit.
Hey, Samantha, you want to talk about your rally?
Oh, my rally.
Yeah. While you're talking.
Okay, so my name is Samantha. There's a rally on the 25th for the Great Salt Lake at 2 p.m. at the Capitol. Just remember, it's Christmas in January. This is more awareness of the Great Salt Lake. You can learn more about it on the 15th at the Mary Magdalene Cathedral, which is a beautiful place to be anyway. Free snacks, free drinks, 6 to 9 p.m. 15th, 25th. I have these little posters. I'm going to ask them nicely to put them over here so you can take a picture or put it in your calendar. Okay. Thank you, guys.
There's a great piece in the Tribune the other day about some of the issues we need to address with the Great Salt Lake and how ranchers and farmers can really be champions of this issue because so much of the water use is coming from that perspective. So check that out if you haven't seen it. And I think all of our contact info is in your newsletter, right?
Yeah, we'll get Hong. Hong's newly elected to get her. As well.
Yeah, so find that newsletter, reach out.
I hate to speak up. I just want to mention, if anybody doesn't want to lose our BLM lands, join me Saturday up at the Capitol, the big demonstration against giving away our land to the state. We're good.
What time, Milton?
Noon.
Okay. All right.
Sam's not going to the governor's ball, but this is Detective Fallow, so he's going to come talk crime.
Didn't you get
You've got
invited?
10 minutes. What?
Didn't he get invited?
No, I just show up and I do what I want to do. Look at me, who's gonna stop me? Oh, to that, no, I feel way underdressed. Man. I wasn't invited here. I'm not just taking over this meeting, but I could. All right. Man, I'm tired, so I might, like the last meeting we had, I was like being super, couldn't speak properly, so I'm going to try my best not to do that this week. So I'm Detective Sam Fallows, Salt Lake City Police Department. I'm your community liaison detective for the area, for Sugar House and a bunch of other areas in Salt Lake City. So great to be here with you all tonight. Let's see, before we dive into stats, because I kind of want to talk about the year, just kind of like the year, the 2024 stats. Just a couple quick reminders. We are seeing like some upticks of theft and things like that with like a vehicle being in vehicles, things being left in vehicles, and then also vehicle thefts themselves, because again, it's warm-up season, people warm up the cars. So if you're going to do that, technically you can only idle for 2 minutes. I always get that wrong. It's 2 minutes, but if you're going to do it, like be with your vehicle or use like an auto start feature or something like that, because it happens a lot. And then also, do not leave, love of God, any keys in your vehicle, please, or fobs or anything else, because that is also part of the issue. These are mostly crimes of opportunity, almost always. So they're just pulling door handles, looking for something open, or starting vehicle, vehicle that started that got left unlocked. So just, yes, please do not leave extra keys in your vehicle, especially at night. And then also, someone had mentioned to me earlier about the tunnel and how it might be getting a little crowded over there, we'll say. So if things like that are happening, let me know, or let Landon know and he can tell me, or Councilwoman Young and she can tell me. But I have to know about it because as far as I knew, it was fine. So I just found out tonight. So I haven't heard about the tunnel in a while. So it's not a big deal. We got lots of resources to throw at it, but I just need to know about it. So just let me know if it's a problem, or let someone know so we can deal with it. Because you all are like my boots on the ground, my eyes out there. So yeah, just keep us posted on that. On those, it's not necessarily a patrol issue, right? It's more of a DCLO issue, a liaison issue. So I've got lots of resources to help with the problem. May not necessarily fix it, but we can get resources out there. And we've got units we can send out there to help. And yes.
Regular tunnel going into Sugar House.
Yeah, into Sugar House Park. Yeah.
Can I drop?
Yeah.
So Monday night when I was walking through there at dusk, I didn't report it because I thought it's dusk. Where are they going to go? Like, what can you do at that hour? So I didn't report it.
Yeah, that's okay. So they have places to go. There's generally, so all of the overflow beds are open, like all of them, and they've been open for months now. They do fill up for sure, but I've noticed that with like the Fairmont Park, Liberty Park, Herman Franks, all these kind of hotspot areas, the tunnel, sometimes those folks aren't super open to resources, and that's okay. It's not illegal to be homeless by any means, but you also can't like leave trash and needles and feces and all these other things that sometimes come with it, right? So I prefer to report it just so that, number one, we're aware of it so that I can, because again, patrol can maybe come and maybe get them out of there, but if I'm aware of it, then I can get other resources involved to kind of help with the problem. So, because I want it to be safe as well for everyone to be walking through, and you should be able to feel at least somewhat comfortable walking through a tunnel, But there are lots of resources. So just sometimes people are resource resistant, and there's even resources for people who are resource resistant, like the pods and things like that. So there's lots of different things that we can work on getting them into. So yeah, on that subject, just let me know and I can help. And then, so on reporting things, it is good to report just because we do like to have as accurate statistics as possible. So we're a very large police department. We're a very large area. Salt Lake City is a ginormous city, area-wise. Like it's mountain to mountain and, Bountiful to 21st South. It's very, very big. So it's a very large area to try and like keep everything organized. And so we're very statistic driven in the police department. And so we go where we see the problems, right? And so if I don't see that there's a problem because nothing's getting reported or something like that, then there's just going to be less resources that are thrown at it. So patrol is a resource that's always available no matter what, 24/7, 365 days a year, right? But if we need extra resources like police cameras or bike theft operations or car theft operations or these things that I can justify it as a DCLO, as your liaison to my command staff. I can set those up real easy. I just need some kind of numbers to help me out with that. So that's why I always preach like report things. There's lots of ways to report it. If you don't necessarily want to call in, which I don't blame you, and it's something small and simple, you can report it online. Just an online report. It still puts a pin in the map for me. It still puts a pin on the map on the website. So you can report it that way. It's very simple, and I think they worked out most of the kinks, but sometimes it can be a little fidgety. But for the most part, it's pretty simple to report that stuff. So let's dive a little bit into the stats. For Sugar House specifically, for this area, which also is, I think, the largest council district, I believe. It's very big. Maybe some of those West Side ones are pretty big, but
So we have more people.
yeah, by far, for sure.
population.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sugar House is very big. So sometimes the numbers can be a little scary, but when we look at the percentages and kind of break it down, we're actually doing pretty good in Sugar House. So like overall crime for the year of 2024. Let's see, I want to make sure I say this right. Yeah, here we go. So overall crime for the year to date, January to December, we're down 13.2%, which is good. It's a good number. That's the grand total, yeah. So property crimes are down 13.8%, which is big for Sugar House. Sugar House has a lot of property crime, but just mainly because you have a lot of shopping centers here. So you get a lot of vehicle break-ins, things like that. So that's good to see that number like go down. And then the violent crimes, we had our share of violent crimes in 2024 in Sugar House for sure. But even with some of those larger violent crimes, we're still down for the year 5.9%. So again, not a huge number, but it's down. That's what we're looking for. We're doing our best to keep pushing those numbers down and down. And the 3-year averages are about the same. The overall is down 26.2%, and the violent crime is down 5% for the 3-year average. So, but if we go back even to 2020, which was one of our hardest years because we had lost so many officers, and obviously we all know how 2021 was. Do I need to remind anybody? You want to talk about that? If we go back to 2020, we had 2,032 reported total crimes, and this year we had 1,275, so almost half that. So we're coming down significantly, which is awesome. That's what we're looking for. And again, the violent crime also, everything's down from 2020 quite significantly comparatively. Like 2020 had 130 reported violent crimes, just violent crimes. That's in Sugar House, so it's a significant difference to 2024. So yeah, I like to dive into the stats. I always think that like crime is more, it's the perception, right? It's how we perceive it. So if we perceive that our neighborhood is dangerous, then to us it's going to be. But if we can take a step back and look at the full picture and just see like what's actually happening, it paints a decent picture for us. And sometimes what's actually happening is not good, right? We need to improve. That happens all the time, and we work on that all the time. But sometimes we can take a step back and get a little more perspective on like, okay, this one incident happened, but overall we're doing okay. So again, that goes back to just reporting, being vigilant. I like to highlight this one. I'll remind y'all just to highlight it. This was last year. We had like just a vehicle that was sitting running for hours, and someone called that in because that's not normal, right? For a vehicle to just be sitting there running for hours on your neighborhood street with a male occupied in the driver's seat. And they called it in as a suspicious vehicle. When we got there, we investigated, it ended up being stolen, and that individual ended up getting arrested and tied to like, I think it was 4 or 5 other stolen vehicle cases that we were able to close because of that one alert citizen that called us. So yeah, just those little things can sometimes pay off big and help our neighborhoods to not be victimized even further because we were able to get someone off the street who was victimizing people. So yeah, just try and be vigilant. We're coming in, 2025, great year so far. 8 whole days into it. We're doing good. So yeah, any questions, stats or otherwise, or about anything else, or anything you want me to follow up on, or work for y'all? Don't let me off easy now. Come on now.
So there's a car on our street that has no license plates on it. And the person leaves and comes back and is moving stuff into what appears to be an apartment.
Like he lives there, you think?
Well, we're moving in.
Okay.
But why would there be no license plate? Can we call that in?
You can, yeah, for sure. And we have parking enforcement, motors. We have people that deal with all that stuff too. So yeah, absolutely, you can call that. And if it's nothing, it's not gonna be a big deal, right? We're not gonna do anything crazy with it. It's not a big deal, right? But
But it could be a stolen car.
could be, yeah, absolutely. All right. Y'all have a great night.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you later. Thanks. Laura, you want to come on up? Sarah, you want to come on up? And then Billy Knowles. Bill, you have 10 minutes. You want to time limit. You guys have 2. You have 1. Great. You're fast. You go first. Yeah, what she's getting.
Hello, Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Sarah Wilsey. I work with Friends of Fairmount Park, and we had a great 2024. Lots of cool stuff happening. We're ready to kick off 2025 as well. I want to invite everybody on the 20th, January 20th, 1 p.m. We're having our, I guess it's now annual, Martin Luther King Day Jr. Hour of Service. 1 hour. Come be with your neighbors. We'll pick up light trash. We'll also walk around the park and just sort of look at what's happening there together and be in community. It's the 30th anniversary of the Day of Service. And so come join us, Fairmount Park, January 20th, 1 p.m. Meet near the Ranger Station. Bring warm clothes, gloves. We'll have pickers for those that want to pick up trash. Come be with your community and enjoy your park in January. Thanks.
Quick announcement about Sugar House Art Walk. We don't usually have one in January, but Emily Potts on Sugar House Coffee asked if we could, because we are sponsored in Sugar House Coffee. They're going to have children's art up. It is her sister's first grade class. Many of them refugees and low-income kids. So the art will be for sale. And I'm sure all of you know that teachers spend a lot of their own money for their classrooms, and that's where the proceeds will go. So we only have a half a dozen venues participating, but they all have great art. So come and support the kids. Sugar House Coffee, 5 to 8. Right. Thank you.
All right, Bill. We all know who he is.
Well, it's going to be short because the report's gone from 3 pages down to 1.
Yay!
Not much going on, right? Okay, I'm up here. I know. I just waiting for you to help me out. I like the attention. All right, I am going to be brief because we're down to just a few things going on, and I know Lee is going to give a road. That's still a big thing going on, so we shouldn't say a small thing at all. Road is still going on, and you'll hear more about that shortly. But I'm going to tell you about Sugar Alley is going to be open in about less than 90 days, as is the restaurant, and it is going to be really spectacular. And I think you'll all agree that that building is really looking handsome. We did get the road back. So one important thing to say with all of these projects, they might take a while to get up, but if they give us a road and sidewalk back, we're okay. And yeah, right. And so Highland Drive is now back in full strength through that stretch of road there. And they are moving right on schedule and maybe a little ahead of schedule. And they're going to be building that building twice in the time that the next guy down the road is still building one. And that one, Alta-Terra, I did get some information. They have been working, and I said this before, I'll say it again. They've been working real well. The new crew that's come in after the fiasco of the first one. And it has been it's 180-degree difference in getting the cooperation and the follow-through. They have moved in their headquarters into the York building. They have created more parking opportunities for their own staff. We have cleared off, if you noticed, I hope, that the Fairmount Park curbside there is open just almost totally all the time. And we've gotten things cleared up on that respect. I did get the news that building on the south side will be the first phase to open, and that is the, what is it called? Well, I don't want to put a wrong term on it. But anyway, it is going to be available by mid to end of May. And I've already had a lot of requests from people. It's affordable housing. It's the affordable housing component of that larger project. It will be opening somewhere towards the mid to end of May. And I'm hoping in the next couple of days to have information as to who to apply to and who to talk to about getting on the list.
Is that the one with
I
the
suspect
studio
it's going to
apartments?
sell out pretty quickly.
Studio apartments. By
Yes.
the freeway.
Yes, exactly, on the south side. So the smaller of those two buildings. And that, excuse me, I heard from my own emails, a lot of people interested in seeing that get open and available. So, Lori.
As of yesterday, actually, the road from Sugarmont by Fairmount Park is closed. So the road runs north-south.
It shouldn't have been,
It was.
but yeah, I'm not arguing. Well, what I'm saying is they've had often on utility work. Now, I know the guys up on Ashton, that kind of fluctuates sometimes when they're moving machinery in and out of there. And it's open, but there's occasions when you have to sit and wait for someone to drive something through there.
Yeah, no,
I was not
there's a
aware,
barricade.
when I came through there Monday, it was not.
Ah, okay.
So yesterday I did not check it. I will get that figured out
Maybe today
tomorrow.
was open, I don't know.
Yeah, I saw there was a utility company, as the Century something, that did the utility work for them. I saw trucks parked down there Monday when I was driving through there, wondering what they were talking about. So I guess I know now what they were talking about. I'll check on it tomorrow and get some information and get it back to the channel here as to how long or what it's going to look like. So, but duly noted, thank you. That's why I'm here, I guess. So, and that is, again, am I good on the time thing?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, well, I'm good. I'm done. So that's out, those two projects. I know there's a couple others that are on hold and starting to move up again a little bit. The Elm Street project, I think, Mark, you know a little bit about that, but that should be the next one coming online, that we'll see actual construction on here within the next, maybe 30, 60 days, something like that. And a couple others down the street. The Snell Grove is kind of back to the planning table. There's some work being redone on that. I don't see that happening anytime real soon. And I think that's what we know for now. Any questions other than that one? Then, yeah, I'm on. Good. See you.
I'm Leah Jaramillo. I'm here to talk about road construction. So 11th East is nearly complete. We did have to stop because of weather. So there is landscaping, including 100 new trees to still be installed. If you've driven it lately, you'll notice that the streetlights are out. There has been north of 21st, south on 11th, the streetlights are out, and also on 21st, east of 11th. There's been some vandalism that somebody got into the boxes, and so that of course happened like right before Thanksgiving and trying to line up contractors around holidays, whatever. So crews were in there yesterday on 11th East working on electrical repairs. They should be in the next couple of weeks on 21st making repairs to the vandalized parts so then we can figure out what has happened because something else isn't working. So bear with us. It is a complicated process. Copper theft keeps happening. So we had the same thing on 9th South last year. It just happened. So if you see something, say something, right? Use the app, report stuff. If you notice lights out, those kinds of things. The sooner we know, the sooner we can get on them. So 21st South resumed construction Monday. We did have a couple of weeks off with no traffic control. They are back at it. We are doing sewer work from 7th to, I'm going to give you the short, I got like a 2-page thing here, but I'm going to give you the short version. Sewer water line work 7th to 9th East is ongoing now. And storm drain work 11th East to 9th East will start in the next couple of weeks, and they will just keep working west from 11th East to 9th East. When that storm drain crew finishes at 9th, they will jump down to 7th and pick up on the other side of the road. So there will not be a reprieve. They will just keep going so that when the weather is better, we can do the actual roadway work. So again, we are replacing sewer water and storm drain on the project under the new roadway. So next week, Monday, there will be sewer work from like Park and Home to Walgreens on the north side. There are some driveway access closures, so if you are visiting those businesses, just look for the signs. There will be alternate accesses open. They are accessible, but just be aware that that's going to be a little bit tricky while they are bursting sewer pipe under the ground in front of them. I think that's it. Yeah, go ahead.
Will the intersection at 21st and 9th be closed at any point?
The intersection at 21st and 9th will be closed sometime this summer so that they can finish the grading, right? If you drive through there now, you kind of get one of those. We're not going to leave it that way, but they've had to do, there was a huge, I don't know if you saw it earlier in the summer, but there was a huge vault that they had to build down low for the sewer. So they will come back and regrade once the rest of the pipe is through.
Okay.
And we'll tell you about that. And if you're not on the email updates, you can sign up for those, and it'll be in that information as well. There was another hand. Go ahead.
Are you still planning to do the concrete curbs in the center of 21st South outside Chick-fil-A?
Yes.
Yes. So there will be curb. They decided that it made more sense with winter and snow to just hold off on that until the other limitations had been done. But you can kind of see there's some yellow paint where it kind of bulbs out. It doesn't really make sense, but it will be a concrete line.
People going this way turning to Chick-fil-A or already sitting in the uphill turn?
I know. Chick-fil-A is, and they're aware, they're very nice about it, but it is a traffic issue. So,
put a nice high, foot long, foot tall concrete curb in there.
We do have back-to-back 12-inch curb in some places, as well as the wider islands. I cannot remember off the top of my head exactly where they are. There are 2 westbound turn lane locations, and I think 1 northbound at Douglas. So yeah, there will be some, but not yet. Any other questions? 2 other projects that we're expecting this summer are 13th East from 21st South to 30th South, and S-Line extension. So we don't have final limits on the S-Line extension. That was supposed to just go up to Highland, but now there are discussions about extending that further east into the shopping complex, which is awesome. Wow. They have promised that they will come and talk to you. This is a progressive design build, which means they bring the contractor on early to help define the scope, to stretch the dollars. So when they have a bit more of a concrete plan, they will come and talk to us about that as well. You may see there's public comment around the revitalization or redevelopment of the old DI site that is adjacent to the S-Line. Those 2 things are tagged, so folks will be coming to talk to you about those things as well. Cool, thanks.
Amelia's daughter's doing Girl Scout cookies here next month, so Aaron Barlow, come on up. And your troops. So we have 2 presentations. We're going to talk, I guess, land use, height. Just a reminder, we're all polite to all presenters. We're in Sugar House, okay? So we're going to start with these guys from the city. So
great. I'm Aaron Barlow, ready to talk about zoning. Exciting subject. I know the land use committee is ready to talk about zoning. Very exciting.
We'll pull up the map here. It's not too much of Sugar House that's involved, but in abundance of caution, we want to get the word out.
Got to talk right up in it. Yes. Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay. Yes, and in abundance of caution, we want to hear from you all. Of course, we value your insight deeply, and so I don't know if it's kind of hard to make out here, but we are about here. We're about here right now. So you can see anything that's darker blue is what we're talking about today. So if you have property or if you're involved with that, but even if you don't, we'd still love to hear your opinion on some of our numbers.
Great. So this zone, the zones that are being affected, they came out of the 1995 rewrite. Those of you who were around then can remember there was a significant change in the zoning regulations. These 2 districts, when they were created, they had a specific purpose to create moderate to high density infill, meaning new homes and development within existing neighborhoods without removing what's already there. Promoting a variety of residential housing types, meaning small and large, where families can step up as they get larger and step down as they become empty nests, and then making sure that they're compatible with existing neighborhoods. However, that has not really been the case. These regulations have not been working. Of all of the properties within these districts, only 25% allow multifamily development. That means the rest of it is left to single family or it's non-complying. 66 of the properties are not wide enough. Fun fact about the history of Salt Lake City, many of the streets were measured by rods and chains, but so are the properties. 3 chains actually equals 49.5 feet, and the minimum width in this district is 50 feet, meaning if it was historically measured before a certain period of time, really before mid-20th century, then it is too narrow. And then just about half are smaller than 5,000 square feet, which is the minimum size in this district, which is not moderate density. That is single family density. Here's just a map illustrating that only a quarter or 75% of the properties are too small for 3 or more units. That's what we mean when we say multifamily development. And the purpose of this district really is to promote missing middle housing. Missing middle housing essentially means not high-rise apartments, not single family houses, but those things in between, like sixplexes, row houses, duplexes, stacked triplexes, things that people can, it's still a small scale, but it is not light in that density. So to overcome these issues, we've kind of gone through and developed some goals of things that we want to do to correct these issues. First is to clarify the regulations. They're a little bit hard to understand. You basically need a math degree to understand the density requirements. We need to promote infill while preserving character, which is the intent of those districts, meaning the streetscape should remain very much intact while still introducing housing in many forms. Whether that's a duplex in someone's backyard, a casita, another apartment in the back of the house, however it can making sure that we're maintaining neighborhood character. Another goal, which is a big ask, is to prevent displacement. There's not a lot zoning can do, but our goal is to really incentivize retaining existing housing by allowing density bonuses for those people that maybe own a home and want to see a little bit more income by putting a duplex in the backyard. And they're encouraging moderate density and prioritizing affordability by integrating the affordable housing incentives in a way that maintains character. So this code, we're going to get into the real nerdy stuff here, is called a form-based code, meaning that different types of buildings have different regulations. So for a vertical multifamily building, it's going to have different types of regulations than a row house or a townhouse. Urban houses, which is just a home with up to 2 units, that are going to have much lighter regulations since the impact is much smaller. Then the number of units in these buildings is really determined by the size of the lot. Larger lots or allow more units. There we go. So there's some general standards that apply to every form. We're limiting the width of development or new construction to 110 foot wide. The hope there is to limit kind of land banking by developers holding on to a lot of property and boarding up houses and then clearing it out and putting in new development, which is what has happened in the past. We're also putting more flexibility in the lot and building location requirements. Right now, if you want to build a house in the backyard, it takes a long and arduous process to plan development, something that is maybe easy for a developer, but not so much for your typical property owner that may want to put a home in the backyard. And then we're promoting mid-block walkways when plans call for it. And then here's those unit bonuses that I talked about earlier, allowing 2 extra units for preserving duplexes or single family, and 4 additional units extra for multifamily development.
Sure, yes. Aaron talked a little bit about preserving neighborhood character before. That obviously is of utmost importance to us. If we were to go back to the map, I won't make you do it. But a lot of what you'll see, especially in lower avenues, is a lot of this is within a historic district. So That's not changing. A lot of the historic regulations obviously will still be present, maintaining that neighborhood character. Another thing is the design standards. We can go into detail. Feel free to reach out to any of us, and we can go through these more in depth. But right now, the current zones that exist do not have design standards. So in an effort to maintain that neighborhood character, we're going to implement these design standards that you see here.
Yeah, these districts actually do not have design standards at the moment. So new development would not have requirement for a front porch or a window or or a step back. Parking, I know is a hot topic. Right now, the current regulation really depends on the type of unit, how large a unit is, up to 2 spaces. A single family house has a greater parking requirement than a row house. This proposal would standardize that. And these districts are located near transit, and they are also usually more urban in nature. And so this proposal would really standardize parking requirements for it, but that does not mean developers can put in more parking than what is required. When regulating these building forms, there's a few elements that vary from form to form. The first is height. We're going to allow more height for a multifamily building. There will be more requirements for that taller building. Coverage will be different for each type. The minimum lot size will vary depending on the type and how they use the land. And then the number of units per building is limited for each building form. Location of garages and setbacks vary because the impact is different. For example,
yeah, we'll go through really quickly. We don't want to take up too much of your time, but we did want to go over some potential types of what we're talking about with missing middle. This would be the lowest level urban house, 2-family. Those would be the requirements that we would have for those. And then also things like cottage developments. I don't think this picture is from Salt Lake, but we have a couple of these around here, and people really like them. Next would be the row houses. There's not too many properties in the zone that have enough land to be able to do this, but yeah, we would be looking at something like that with those numbers. And then finally, multifamily. Again, not a large amount of properties that would be able to maybe demolish or build something this size. But if it's done right, we can tell it turns into a really nice product.
One incentive is when the developer incorporates affordable housing and preserves an existing building that is significant to the history of the city, they would be given additional height up to 55 feet. The idea here is that a developer does not want to be creative in their design, then they're going to have to include affordable housing. And we really want to push that. Keeping the height at 4 stories is an effort to maintain neighborhood character. That's when you get to 5 stories, that's where you start to get into those 5/1 type things you see on, 4 South. Yeah, easy and cheap to build. And if you want that, then you got to have affordable housing. So we have a few examples here. In the city, there are already many homes and properties with more units than you might expect. Here's a property in the Avenues. Right now, there are 4 units on a 3,400 square foot lot. Currently, only 1 unit is technically allowed on that property, but with this proposal, it would be brought into compliance with 4 units. Same goes here for on South Temple. This one is not quite brought into compliance because it is 7 units on 4,000 square feet, which is a very tight squeeze, but it still brings it closer to reality, something that is actually on the ground. So just to recap what we've gone over here, the goal is to clarify these requirements so that those that have a property and may want to add 1 or 2 units in their backyard, make it approachable and understandable. By promoting these infill, preserving character, and relaxing these rules, you'll see on the board there, by making that flexibility, we'll be able to have more infill. And then we talked about preventing displacement, encouraging that moderate density, prioritizing affordability. Here's a timeline for this proposal. Right now, we are visiting community councils. We had the other half of our team at the Central City Community Council. We're meeting with Liberty Wells next week. We have East Central after that. We're, hitting all the greatest hits in town. And so mid-February, we'll be holding a work session with the Planning Commission. It's not a hearing, but it is a good time to come and see what the commission thinks and to kind of watch what we're proposing. And then in March is actually the public hearing. You can tell the Planning Commission what you think. And our goal is to have that sent to the City Council in April. Here is the website you can visit. It's the short URL that kind of walks you through the details that we talked about today.
Much more in depth than we've gone over. It's a great website.
So that's it. Here's our contact information. I'm Aaron Barlow. It's Grant.
My name is Grant. Thank you so much. Will you introduce yours?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Come on.
And Michaela has been very much.
Hi, I'm Michaela Okai from Planning.
No.
I don't have to. Deputy Director of Planning.
Yay!
I don't come here that often. It's so good to be here. I've posted photos on our team, so happy to have you all.
You can come anytime.
I'd love to.
Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
James coming up. All right, next you have James.
You have questions?
Can they send that presentation to Judy?
Yes, of course. Derek has it. We'll get it to you. Yes, absolutely.
We'll post it on our website. Next we have James Roberts. Good, Jerry?
We got it. Derek.
I got here. That's great. Yeah. That's okay. I can do it. I'm pretty ambidextrous.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Can we introduce yourself?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce myself. Hi, everybody. First of all, thanks for having me here tonight. My name is James Roberts, as Landon said. I represent a group of. Oh, sorry. I feel like Tom Segura now. I represent a group of historical business interests in Sugar House. A lot of them have been there for over 25 years. And they have hired my firm, a company called Redirect Marketing, to conduct a community engagement process in Sugar House. And as we started, we sent out a survey. You may have seen it in the Community Council newsletter. We got a total of 871 responses, which exceeded our goal by about 271. I've had interns from Westminster out meeting with businesses. We've visited 89 doors so far in Sugar House. And our initiative is really aimed at one thing, which is to start a community conversation about what Sugar House looks like in the future. And we all know some people rolling from out of town and have big ideas and big buildings. And our folks have been here a long time, and they care about Sugar House. They care about the community, and they want to know what you think. They want what the community needs, and they want to design buildings that make sense for everybody in Sugar House. Okay. So, to start the conversation with an obvious, Utah is growing significantly. Growth is coming. Natalie Gottner, who's the chief economist for the state, heads the Gardner Institute, has said that we'll have as many as 500,000 people move into the state of Utah in the next 10 years. If you look at the numbers in a little bit more detail, that means a total of 275,000 new housing units in that same 10-year period. The challenge that we have is Utah right now is already 37,255 houses short of being able to house people. So we start at a pretty significant deficit, which is compounded by the fact that capital markets, labor costs, cost of material, interest rates have made it almost impossible for people to start new buildings. So in addition to having a deficit to start, we also have a significant shortfall of new inventory on the runway.
I don't think your slides are progressing.
Oh.
Sorry.
Sorry.
There you go.
So that was the one about the deficit. And this is building permits. So as you can see, since 2021, we had a big spike from 18 to 20 through COVID. And then once interest rates hit 7.5%, everybody basically just put every project on pause. So thinking about it globally, and this has less to do with Sugar House and more to do with Utah and Salt Lake City in general, but as a community, we have a pretty significant housing problem, and affordability is just one really important aspect of it. So we like to start kind of at the base and the foundation, which is what makes a great community. And we all have our own ideas, but at a very minimum, you need to have a local economy and jobs. You need to have a safe and secure environment. It was great to hear from the police that things are getting better. You need to have inclusive housing options, which, as a part of the survey, by the way, we're still doing the final report, and we'll publish it and send it to Event Landing so we can distribute it. But one of the real interesting things was that, and I've been doing survey work in Utah since 1989, and affordable housing has never been one of the top issues. And in this survey, it was amazing, the amount of people that said we need affordable housing. We asked the question, is Sugar House too expensive for the next generation of residents? 78% of the people said yes. So we have a pretty significant problem. You need to have access to schools. You need to have access to health and wellness, community amenities, green spaces. Fortunately, we've got 2 great parks. Accessibility, walkability, and sustainability. One of the great things for Sugar House is all that stuff, a lot of it already exists. You have an amazing healthcare facility with the University of Utah. You've got an abundant amount of housing. You've got great retail. You have some of the best shopping centers in Eastern Salt Lake City. You have access to Westminster, the University of Utah. So there's a lot of great stuff already existing in Sugar House. So let me tell you what we learned. I'm just going to show you a couple slides. This was interesting. And again, here is what people like most about Sugar House. Obviously, restaurants, shops, parks, walkability. What would make Sugar House better? I'm not really sure what this means, and even though we wrote the question, but better. I'm going to have to get on somebody about that. Better landscaping and greenery. And I don't think that means parks. I think it must mean, gardens and more kind of green features and walkways.
Street trees.
Street trees. Well, I didn't get on that. Street trees.
You want trees?
We're planting 100 new trees.
Okay.
With this new development.
Awesome.
When the roads are done. But right now it looks pretty bare.
Yeah, well, it does look bare on 11th East. Okay. More public gathering places. And again, here it is again, more affordable housing. One of the interesting things too, and this is something that we haven't also seen over the years, is when asked whether people would prefer more parking or more access to multimodal transportation, it was about a 60-40 split towards public transportation as opposed to parking, which is kind of, again, we thought it was sort of an interesting takeaway. Okay, so now I want to talk to you a little bit about what the options that the community faces and the development community faces as we move forward in planning kind of the next phase or next life of Sugar House. There's a few really major considerations. The first one, and we're all keenly aware of this, is height. If you look at the Salt Lake City Fire Code, Salt Lake City Fire defines buildings by serviceability for fire. They define a low-rise building up to 85 feet, which means that you can service it with a ladder truck. A mid-rise building is between 85 and 179 feet, which means that it's made of concrete and steel as opposed to wood and residential building materials. And then high-rises are anything over 180 feet. So you probably all driven downtown recently, but if you drive downtown on State Street and 2nd East, or second south. The Astor Tower, which just was finished and completed, is 42 stories tall. There's another tall building, the Worthington on the corner of 3rd and 3rd, which is 35 stories tall. And the people who built the Astra own 3 more similar sized lots downtown. And they said if their fill-in rate is fast enough, they'll build those 2 as well. So we're getting a lot of height and density downtown. We don't need height and density in Sugar House. One of the things I do think is important is to look at materiality. And one of the, and you all probably also driven down 4 South 100 times, but if you look at the quality of construction of 4 South as an example, those buildings were built quickly, they were built fast. As the folks from the planning staff said, if you want to build those buildings, you can. They fall apart fast. They don't look good for very long. So the idea of trying to mix up materiality in the way we build things in Sugar House probably makes sense to have it last a little bit longer in the future.
Yeah.
Yay. Well, the buildings on 4th South are only like 20 years old.
Yeah, some of them are 10 years old and they're just horrible. So you know, this is actually a building called the Quattro on the left right there that's on 4 South. It's maybe 8 years old, and they put in this newfangled parking machine. So everyone drives in, you hop on it. It's like a big rotating conveyor belt, and apparently it's broken pretty much 99% of the time.
We got one of those coming in Sugar House.
Oh, do we?
Yeah.
Oh, good. This next one is the Regent condominiums, which is part of the City Creek development. I think it's 19 stories tall. So it's taller than the 179 feet or whatever, but it's in that same range. And then the last one is an image of the Astra Tower. And I live right across the street from Astra, and it is a mammoth. Like, it is crazy. Fits well downtown, would not fit in Sugar House. No. The other important component is spacing. And this is something that, you know, you need height to improve spacing. And the reason is, the way the development community thinks is they build a pro forma, and to have a pro forma that pencils and makes sense, you have to have enough units to pay for it. So if you're only given 85 feet of height, as an example, you're going to build corner to corner on every piece of block, because that's the way you get your density. If you add a little bit of height, you can, which is the middle one, if you add a little bit of height, and again, I'm not talking about high rises, you can create a lot more plaza space, open spaces, walkways, creates more opportunities for retails, walkway throughs, that kind of thing. And then the far example would be more of a downtown example where you have a couple high-rise buildings on a block and split up. And that, you know, think of the Galvin Plaza as an example, which is a perfect downtown use. But you have a couple big tall buildings and you have a big plaza in the middle. But that high-rises give you the opportunity to do that. And that, you may or may not know this, but that plaza, the Galvin Plaza, is paid for by the people who own the real estate around it. And then the final thing is, and then I'll leave you with questions, is community amenities. And you know, as I said, one of the great things about Sugar House is we have a lot of the stuff already. So we don't need to worry about the need to have as much as what are the nice to haves. So we can focus on things like event spaces or bikes and walking paths, more local retail, plazas, more local bars and restaurants, and housing. That's what I've got. Thanks very much for the time.
So tell me about those local bars and restaurants and the open space. Who pays for that? You're saying the buildings around are going to do that?
I think, and this is really up to Sarah and the city, but I think what the city's plan is to really have tight development agreements. If you look at what happened with the Utah Theater as an example, it was a great example because the Heinz company wanted a lot of benefits, they wanted a lot of variability, and the city required them to basically include all the community amenities in the development agreement. So there was none of this, we promise we'll do this, we'll have good local retail, we'll have great plazas, whatever. It was basically bound in ink, and I think that's what the plan of the city is.
But do you think it'll happen? Yeah. Or will they just say, no, we'll go elsewhere?
And they have to.
I think everybody's going to be different. I think for the people who already own property in Sugar House and are looking at the next generation of development, it's going to be easier to make some accommodations that make sense because they're not investing in new dirt.
Can you define what your relationship is with the city?
My relationship with the city?
Right. Are you a consultant?
No, I work for business interests. So I work closely with Sarah and the mayor's office and Landon and other people, but I to be completely transparent, I'm paid by people who own dirt. So that's.
Any on Sugar House Station, so which we're all excited for.
Yeah, Mark and I would love to buy you guys all a burger next time.
Especially Mark.
30 days.
Mark, I hear you're buying the burgers.
Hey, I'm just proud to announce that I got my building permit on December 31st.
So this is the old Kimmy's Chop House. These two are part of the ownership group of that.
Good.
Yeah.
You can buy both. I'll buy the bourbon, Mark buy the burgers. Whatever your preference is. Yeah, we've got plenty of it. We're actually going to pour Buffalo Traces on whiskey so that we get access to Pappy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Trouble. Any other questions?
So what do you think is going to happen with Wells Fargo, the old Wells Fargo? What would be a good thing there, and what do you think about the Sizzler lot? Like, have you thought about those specific things about what?
I love the Sizzler lot, and I think there's a lot of applications that make perfect sense there. I mean, I think, as a guy that owns restaurants, I think it would be amazing to have a Tavern on the Green style restaurant on that corner with access to the park, and maybe have a little deli next door where you can come in and buy a sandwich and go take a picnic. I mean, in my view, that would be a great use. I know that there are people looking at it for other uses. The current zoning on that, I think, is 5 stories. So, I mean, for them to do parking and whatever else, it's going to have to be at least probably 6 stories.
But then you have the liquor laws that it's right next to the park. It has to be so many feet here and there and whatever. So, and the cost of the lot, I can't see a restaurant working there.
I mean, it was marketed for $7.2 million, and then they turned that down and instead did a land lease of $250,000 a year, escalating with Maverick until, I think now it's 99 years.
Oh, Maverick has it for 99 years.
Well, Maverick has sublet it to somebody else, so it's a complicated mess over there.
Yeah.
But
It's just
and then
too much rent for the building.
yeah, you have to have a whether it's for sale condominiums or multifamily housing or a hotel or a senior center, or I don't know. There's a million applications, but there's got to be a combination of something because the just the lease alone is too much to afford unless there's more to do there. On the Wells Fargo building, I have no idea. Sarah would probably know better than me.
I can give an update when it's.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the general winds are blowing in it's not going to be anything like that direction, but that's only intuition on my part.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So I was talking to some of the business owners, have those little charming area left in Sugar House, which is across from the post office. So Mr. Taggy owns all that property. Michael Upwall owns some of it, but I mean, they don't know what's going to happen, with their leases. But when you talk about a survey like this, I mean, to me, that is a key component of the character of Sugar House is maintaining those kinds of local businesses. They are not the same if you put them, in the bottom of a new development. It's not the same character. It doesn't generate the same kind of walkability, in my opinion. So I don't know if you have an opinion about that, and it also ties into historical preservation because those are all older buildings. And again, charming. They're my favorite stores in all of Salt Lake City.
Well, I was saying to someone earlier today that the tomato soup at the soup kitchen is my favorite thing in the world. So
yeah, and it's not that property. It's
I know. I think historic character is important. I mean, it's one of the things that we love about the building that we leased on Highland Drive. I don't think if you take all that away from the community, you don't have a community anymore. You just have a bunch of shiny buildings, and so. And I think, if we can work together with people who've been here on the business side for a long time, we can come up with a solution that makes sense for everybody.
You know, one of the problems is the rent in these new buildings for the first floor retail is so expensive that nobody but a chain can make it. That's why we're having so much turnover.
No, I hear that, and I it's funny. Because I watched the Habit Burger was a client of mine, and we opened that store for them.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
I ate there every week.
8 years ago, 10 years ago, whenever it was, and I was really surprised to see them move because they are a national chain backed by private equity. I mean, I can't believe that rents are too much for them, and I was always busy when I went in there. But if they can't make it, then I mean, how's Silverside Deli or
Right.
yeah.
Soup kitchen.
Yeah.
So is part of this analysis or study, whatever, I mean, I don't know what you call this, the new approach to the transfer development rights proposal so that, you know, airspace above these 420 buildings can be reapplied to other areas?
That really is a question for Nick Norris, the planning staff. I don't know.
We're not addressing that in this.
No, all I'm doing really is to say that, you know, we have as a community huge hurdles that we are facing in the next, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. There's going to be a lot of development. We already know there's a lot coming down the pipe. Interest rates are going to probably go down, and that's going to free up the capital markets, and people start pulling permits and building again. But, you know, I talked to the guys that bought the Stelgrove site from John Factory today, and they're, I mean, Landon said it or Bill did, but I mean, they're in limbo. They don't even, until, they said there's a lot of moving parts at the city too. You know, there's some major zoning changes coming and all sorts of other stuff. So I think everyone's kind of waiting with bated breath, if you will, until they figure out exactly what we can go. So as far as the transfer rights go, I'm familiar with it. I think it's, I mean, again, personally, I think it's a great idea, both to preserve historic buildings and also to add people the ability to build affordable housing, which I think is, you know, as we move on for the next 5 years, affordable housing is going to be, and homelessness are going to be the two biggest issues that we face as a community, in my view. Anyone else? Hey, thanks very much. Pleasure spending the night with you guys. Thanks.
Mike, you want to come? Mike has a fantastic mustache, so he deserves it. He's our treasurer.
Thanks, everybody. Mike Bagley, good to see y'all. It turns out that scuba diving with the mustache is a challenge. Just got back from Mexico. It was pretty nice.
Tough duty.
Anyway, just a quick update about Treasury report. Logged in, U.S. bank account looking healthy, $9,928.83. And thank you to everybody. I'm sure a lot of you are in the room, made your generous donations, either directly, you know, by check or more often through the PayPal link on the website. That PayPal balance right now, as of today, $492.96. So appreciate all that generosity. A shout out to Sarah Woolsey because maybe a little more than half of those funds she solicited to kind of keep maintaining the glass recycling bin at Fairmont Park looking good. So those are kind of in reserve in case we ever need some touch-up paint or deal with any kind of graffiti issues there. And yeah, so again, thanks for your generous donations, all volunteer organization here. Try to keep everybody informed and say our biggest expenses are just website upkeep and hosting, and that's kind of one of the things that where the money goes to, as well as some of our other stuff. So again, thank you everybody. If there's any questions, no, usually not.
We're going to hear from Hannah Barton, and then we'll go with our councilwoman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Hannah from the mayor's office. I do have some slides for you. Happy New Year. It's good to see you all. Thank you. Okay. I'm sure a lot of you already know this, but you probably got a notice in the mail this week that our trash day pickup is changing. For most of District 7, if you live in this green zone right here, your new trash pickup day will be Friday.
Hooray!
Thank you. I know it feels like a really big change. The reason that the city's sustainability division is changing this is just to match with their capacity. They have the most capacity in the middle of the week, and they used to have the hardest days with like the most trash, the trickiest streets to navigate were Monday and Friday. And so they are switching things around a little bit so that the hardest days can be in line with their capacity, which happens to fall in the middle of the week. So that means that you guys are really easy. So you should feel good about that. Really easy trash pickup days. So that change will start on February 3rd, the week of February 3rd. So you have a couple of weeks to think about it, and then we'll start. I did want to remind everyone that brown bins pickup for those will suspend on January 17th. So if you still have a Christmas tree to get rid of, like I do, put it in your brown bin before the 17th, and please cut them up into small pieces so that they can fit in the can.
Hannah, when
Yes.
does brown bin resume?
It'll resume sometime in March. I don't have an exact date yet, but it'll pick back up again in March when we all want to get our gardens ready for spring. Next, the mayor's office is super excited to announce a historical markers pilot program. This is in partnership with the Salt Lake City Council and with the Salt Lake City Human Rights Commission. This is an opportunity for different people and organizations in Salt Lake City to apply for a historic marker, somewhere to be placed somewhere in the city. And this marker could commemorate a historical site, like a person, an event, a structure, and they're specifically looking for markers that kind of undertold history. Or parts of Salt Lake City's history that maybe goes unknowledged or isn't a part of our kind of common conversations about our history. So those applications are open now and are due February 28th, 2025. I do have some flyers for those over here just to the right of the cash register. So you can grab one of those when you're buying something. Yeah, it's very exciting, cool new program. 2 finalists will be awarded for those historic markers. But again, this is a pilot program, so hopefully it goes well and we can keep doing this in the future.
There will be only 2 for the entire city?
Yes, yeah, 2 selected from the applicants, but it's a pilot, so hopefully all things will go well, and we can keep doing this and add more. Next, I have a couple of traffic calming updates. I thought this was going to be a light update, and then I realized I had a ton of information for you guys, so I'm going to try not to go too fast, but we'll get through this. Okay. So there is a traffic circle that will be going in on 10th East and Ramona Avenue. This is the last crown jewel on top of the Sugar House Safe Side Streets CIP project. The contractor for these 3 projects, by the way, is the same contractor. And we anticipate that they will happen more or less simultaneously. I don't have exact timing yet, but I do know that the city met with the contractor today to start working out those details. So if you live in direct vicinity of any of these projects, you should be receiving mailers and or flyers dropped at your door with more information as things firm up, but just want to give everyone a heads up. The next project is speed humps on Westminster Avenue between 13th East and 11th East. There will be 2 humps above 12th and 2 humps below 12th. The city has worked really closely with all of the homeowners on Westminster to make sure people were supportive, which in general they really were. And of course, make sure those speed humps aren't blocking any important driveways or anything like that. So, and then lastly, there will be speed humps installed on the small section of Parkway Avenue between 13th East and Highway Drive. I'm sure all of you, or many of you, like myself, we get off I-80, we turn right down Parkway, and then we're in Sugar House. It's so fast and easy. But unfortunately, the residents on Parkway experience a lot of speeding as a result of that. So there will be 2 speed humps there to keep that street a little bit safer. We can still use it to get into Sugar House. We'll just make sure everyone's driving the speed limit. Next.
Can I ask a quick question about those?
Sure.
Are they the platform type with the textured surface like we put on 27th? They kind of go up and then down and but they're not like.
I'm actually not sure what the material is, so I'll have to check on that and let you know.
Okay.
I hope that they are the concrete.
Just gentle ones. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
And Sarah Wilsey, just happy to see the Safe Side Streets get finished. One thing if you can ask for the people that are implementing the last bits of this, one of the things that happened for our neighbors on Hollywood was where they put the sign that says speed hump, they didn't ask anyone if there was like a 2 inches in either direction that might be important to that person. And I think there's some wiggle room, like where they can put them. If you can ask that the people placing the signs knock on the doors of the homeowners and just make sure they're aware and maybe have a teeny bit of choice in where that sign goes, I think it would be flexible and it would bode for good customer service for the city's fundraisers. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate that feedback. I can definitely flag that for our engineering team because I think that's important. Okay, next, livable streets. Some of you might remember transportation coming to talk to you back in 2022, 2023. This was a long time ago now. The city has a program called Livable Streets where the transportation division separated the city into 113 zones and prioritized those zones based on need for traffic calming. And they used crash data, speeding data, just number of cars, pedestrian incidents, cyclist incidents, proximity to schools and parks, things like that. And this Sugar House zone was zone number 2. So it was the second most important zone in the entire city that needed traffic calming. And I will say that this data was gathered before construction on 2100 South began, as was all the feedback. So this is not a reaction to construction-related issues. This was determined before that all started. But you can see here some of the studies that the city did showed that going down Wilmington, for example, below 13th East, cars are oftentimes going 10 miles over the speed limit. There's also roughly 5,000 cars on Wilmington on average every day, which is a lot. This here is a map of the same zone showing crash data. So that's from the police department, crashes involving vehicles, pedestrians, and cyclists alike, all in that area. So the city has determined a number of solutions, and this is all based on community feedback that was gathered from you all and your neighbors and business owners back in 2022 and 2023. So there are 13 traffic solutions going in the area. The hope is for this to be done in the next few months, hopefully by March. So this is going to be some winter construction, which I know isn't fun, but luckily these projects are way, way less impactful than the construction you've been dealing with. You can see here that a lot of these are raised crosswalks, which is great. There's some speed humps going in on Elm, which is the street directly south of 2100 South. There's some bulb outs and different restrictions on right turns, just to make sure that pedestrians and cyclists feel safe using our streets and crossing the street. So that seems like a lot. The Transportation Division has an excellent website on this. This is just screenshots from the website. So if you want to learn more, if you just Google Salt Lake City Livable Streets, Zone 2, click on it. There's a ton of information that'll walk you through all the data that was gathered to justify these projects.
What you could do, make a link to all that, write a little paragraph that Landon can put in the next newsletter.
Perfect. I will do that. We'll make sure this gets in the newsletter so you can all just click on it really easily. If you have questions or feedback, feel free to ask me. And I can also connect you to the wonderful folks in transportation to talk more in detail about this. Lastly, I have some office hours coming up in the month of February. I will be at Sugar House Coffee on Wednesday, February 12th from 1 to 3. Any of you are welcome to stop by, chat, ask questions, invite your neighbors who maybe don't interact with the city that much, but have stuff they want to talk about. That's all I have. Does anyone have questions for me?
Livable streets.
Yes, livable streets. Yes, that's right. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Jamie does a great job. Councilwoman
Crazy. Like non-stop. People who are born, I don't know who they are. Okay, thank you guys so much. So I just have a couple quick updates from Salt Lake City Council. First and foremost is the last time we all chatted. I gave you some dates related to when we would expect the Wells Fargo property to come before us, which included a working session that was originally planned for December, and then a final council action that would have been last night at the formal council meeting. Neither of those happened. So basically 24 hours before the working session was going to take place, the applicant asked it to be pulled from the council's working agenda, which they're allowed to do. So it hasn't moved forward. We don't have additional dates yet. But as soon as we do, we'll be sure to let the community know so that you have an opportunity to be involved in those conversations. And I will continue to reflect the conversations that we've had here and the wonderful letters and comments that you've shared with Judy Short that she compiled and submitted to Planning Commission as well as to City Council. So more to come, but unfortunately, like I said, we don't have any final outcomes, which I know the community was looking forward to, as was I. In terms of other actions that City Council has taken, you also had a presentation at the last meeting by one of your fellow neighbors, Susan, who came and asked for a letter of support from the Sugar House Community Council related to some concerns she had about being required to cut down the hedge on the side of her yard and that impacting the birds that live there and, you know, some of the kind of historical nature of that. So I'm pleased to let you know that last night I was able to get City Council to support a legislative action. So our wonderful administration and planning department is going to take a look at that ordinance, your letter of support and Susan's recommendations to be able to see what we can do. We had multiple council members who were supportive of being able to look into that and especially being thoughtful about that. So thank you for your support. And it was very helpful as your council member to be able to convince others that this was something the city should look into. So that's a plus. As far as we look forward, I think a couple big things that I'll just share for the city that are on the horizon. First and foremost, we do have the consolidated zoning related to mixed use that is coming forward. It has been transmitted to council, but we don't have it on the agenda just yet. We would expect to see that in the working agenda from what I've been told, talking with our new chair. Within the next like 6 to 8 weeks is kind of the ideal, so that then we can move to public comment and the community will have an opportunity to give feedback to some of that consolidation and how it could change some of the core business district, which I know again is an area of interest for all of our residents. Second thing I want to highlight is actually related to an action that the state engaged in with the city. So you may, if you've been following the news, noted that in some of the governor's actions over the holidays included issuing a letter to Salt Lake City, basically saying that we were on notice to be able to provide a comprehensive response on what the city is doing to address some of the issues that our residents are experiencing in regards to individuals who are experiencing homelessness. And that we needed to present that response by next week. And that based on the receipt of that response, that the state wouldn't rule out basically taking over homeless services and or homeless response for the city at the statewide level. So as somebody who works in government, I can tell you that the best place for those decisions to be made is locally. And I don't just say that as your city council member, but I say that again as somebody who works in public service, that Salt Lake City is best to be able to come up with solutions and address that. If the state takes it over, you may potentially see a reduction in a lot of the services we've built out through Salt Lake City Police to be able to provide social workers and additional solutions related to mental health needs for some of those individuals. And you would see a straight enforcement in terms of taking people to the county, in terms of looking at kind of creating criminal records for those individuals at an already stressed incapacity system. You'll note the county did not receive public support for their request for additional fundings related to building out some of the needs they have in terms of additional beds for a larger county facility. And so you would be sending them to a place where they would be putting them back on the streets within 45 minutes. So,
what good is that?
Yes, so thank you. I mean, no good. Here, Judy. So as a part of that, I just highlighted for you, not just in regards to the timeline of the city response, but also just recognizing as we go into legislative session, this is going to be a big topic. And we are huge advocates for conservation related to the Salt Lake, agreed. We are huge advocates when it comes to wanting to support our schools and education, yes. I think it's also really important though for Salt Lake to be able to say, yes, there is still work to be done in terms of building out more solutions and more spaces to be able to help individuals who are experiencing homelessness, but we think we're the right people to do it, and it's not something that we want to see turned over to the state. So just keep that on your radar. I think it's important in terms of recognizing the voice that we have and being able to participate in that legislative way. Last but not least, I have presents. So these probably aren't for everyone, but I do have plenty. So if you'd like one, it's for you. So what is this fun little trinket? So when we were working through cleaning out the council offices, in the back of another council member's desk, like shoved between a drawer, they found these, well, actually one, old membership directory from 1990 for the Sugar House Chamber of Commerce. And so they were kind enough to gift it to me. I was looking through it. It was pretty fun nostalgia. And so I took it up to the wonderful little copy center up on Highland, just past 2700 South. If you ever need copying services, I am telling you, they are the place to be. They were incredible. I was like, can you make me like just some replicas to be able to share with the community? And they did. So I have a bunch of these available. You're welcome to grab them. I'll just put them on the table. If you want to take one home to you, I would also say that if you have any neighbors who have lived in the area for a long time, I encourage you to grab one for them and be able to pass it along, because I think a lot of folks will see names of businesses that are part of, in many ways, some of their childhood in other areas. So you're welcome to have these, like I said, just a very small passing along the history to our current residents and making sure it's there. I'm happy to answer any questions related to the city. Yes, George.
Is there, concerning the state taking over homeless care, is there anything we can do as citizens to influence the state? Who, when you said the state, who is that exactly?
That's a good question. So thank you for asking. So the letter came to the mayors directly from the governor's office. The governor is responding to a lot of business interest pressures related to folks, especially who own businesses in the downtown area, who are concerned. So if I was to tell you who to contact, obviously you should copy in your amazing legislative representatives that we saw here earlier tonight, but you want to direct your information instead of to them, to the governor's office and to Wayne Niederhauser, who is our state homeless representative for the governor's office. And so those two individuals, especially if you're advocating for, like, yes, there's work to be done, but Salt Lake City is the best positioned to do that work, they would be the best to receive that message. And then you CC in your local legislators, so it brings transparency to the fact that you reached out to them.
And maybe the letter, if we all wrote a letter, it should include the fact that the state took away a whole bunch of city funding and city space, and they need to give it back.
Yes, I mean, I have lots of feelings. We could talk for a long time. I will note, as a highlight and a recent highlight, we did see the Other Side Village open up. And so that was a huge positive step forward in terms of creating a community that allows folks who are experiencing homelessness to be able to have a place to be able to kind of, regain their feet underneath them and have access to safe and affordable housing. The first 4 residents were given their keys, and there are more to come in terms of what's next. I had a chance to go and see them. Really well done, really thoughtful, and like I said, really good evidence of where Salt Lake City was a partner to business interests as well as other community and county interests, and we came together to create a solution that has humanity in terms of being able to address our neighbors. And so that literally just opened. So I think that there's a lot to say about the progress we're making. That's not to say there isn't still work to be done. But it's a good piece of evidence if you're looking for something to reference as to why Salt Lake City is making progress.
What is the exact address of that Other Side Village?
I'll have to get it for you. It is, so basically if you take the 201 headed west, and then you get off at 13th, and then you're gonna head like towards the Peace Gardens, and then a little bit further west. It's right over there in that area. So It's in District 1, or no, District 2, with Councilmember Pui, but it's kind of in that west side. They are doing tours, and I will say that the goal of the Other Side Village and Academy is to be able to build another 225 units in honor of 2025. They already have commitments in terms of funding and resources to be able to do at least 70 of those, but they are looking to raise funds. So if your business is interested or you're personally interested, you can certainly look up the Other Side Academy, and it's an opportunity to be able to contribute if that's something you're interested in. Okay, well, I think I'm it, so I'm gonna pass it back to Linda.
Anything else? All right.
I have something very quick.
Come on up. And Chris Longhurst is our new transportation chair, so congrats.
Oh, Chris is, all right.
Kids.
Yeah. I told Landon I didn't have anything, and then my phone went off, and I got a reminder from Lynn Olson that April, I know that seems like forever away, it's so cold right now, but it'll be here before you know it. 55th annual celebration of Earth Day is April 23rd. And for those of us old enough to kind of know Earth Day, I'm not quite old enough, but I was a kid. But it was kind of a really great big movement at the time. And so we've tried to kind of continue that. So if any of you have ideas of a project that we could do for Earth Day here in Sugar House, whether it's something in Hidden Hollow or planting some trees somewhere, if you please contact me, let me know your ideas. We really should do something for Earth Day, April 23rd this year, 55 years. And then Arbor Day is really close also, but Tree Utah tends to do a lot of planting on Arbor Day. So I would really like to focus on Earth Day. So.
All right, guys, that's me. Sam, you have anything? No? Okay, all right. Meeting.
Oh, yeah, I want to go check that one.
I'm waiting for your class.
Yeah.